For the last 10 years, my smartphone of choice has been an iPhone, that is, until now. So why after so long of being embedded amongst the Apple ecosystem, did I decide to suddenly abandon it and convert to something else? Well, it's because of this, the Samsung Galaxy S8. When I first saw this thing online, I was completely blown away with its overall design and presentation. But when I first saw it in store, I was ready to abandon my beloved iPhone 6 then and there. Before we get into the details, I want to first outline the issues that I was having with the iPhone 6, which I've owned for 2 years now. The main issue for me was the storage and Apple's lack of upgradability when it comes to this important feature. 16GB of built-in memory in 2017 is absolutely unacceptable, and I was so sick of deleting precious photos and videos just so that I had enough storage to open up my emails for the day. This is when I knew I needed an upgrade, but rather than wait for the iPhone 7s or 8 to come around, I decided to pull the trigger on the almighty Galaxy S8. Now, during my time with numerous iPhones, the release of the Galaxy S5, 6, and even S7 didn't faze me one bit. The macOS and iOS cohesion provided by iCloud was enough to keep me from switching to Android. However, the S8 is on a whole other level. Here you're looking at the Midnight Black 64GB model, and I've also slapped on a matte black D-brand skin, which I absolutely love the look and feel of, and this also helps with some extra grip on the back, as it was a little slippery initially. The 5.8-inch AMOLED display is as sharp as it gets for a handheld device, but I did notice that out of the box it was a little more saturated to what I'm typically used to. As a content creator, color accuracy is super important to me, so when I first saw this I was put off quite a bit. However, this was easily fixed by going into the display settings and switching from the oversaturated adaptive display preset to the more accurate AMOLED cinema preset. Also out of the box, the display is set to 2220 by 1080 and not the full 2960 by 1440, which by the way is almost as many pixels as my 34-inch ultra-wide monitor. So, like many others, I could not tell the difference between these two resolutions, and even dropping down to the lowest preset, 1480 by 720, you really have to try hard to notice any difference in pixel density. Watching content has been an absolute pleasure on this device, something that I do quite a lot. However, I'm still torn between keeping the content at 16 by 9 or cropping it to fit the wider display, which sits at 18.5 by 9. The 3000 mAh battery is giving me about 1 to 2 days of normal use, with about 3 to 5 hours of screen on time per day, and that's using the 2220 by 1080 resolution and screen brightness set to auto. The 12 megapixel rear camera is the best I've used on a smartphone yet, with the front camera being just okay, but good enough for video calls and selfies. Here are some of the shots I've taken with it so far. Colors are true to life and everything looks sharp. You also get some decent separation in the pictures as well, thanks to the large aperture of f1.7, which also gives some decent low light performance, although it did seem a little fuzzy in really dark conditions. And why is no one mentioning the awesome set of headphones that come included in the box? These seriously sound great and are worlds ahead of the plastic Apple EarPods, which absolutely killed my ears for any extended use. Bass response is good, which is going to sound appealing to most people, and best of all, they are extremely comfortable. Of course, these would be useless if it weren't for that headphone jack, something that we are just not ready to get rid of. Now let's talk about that fingerprint sensor, which has been largely controversial since the S8's release. When it comes to unlocking the device, you have plenty of options here. First up is the iris scanner, which, as you guessed it, scans your iris. And although it's cool, it's not really a practical way to unlock your phone, so let's brush over that. Next up is the fingerprint sensor, which is placed right next to the rear camera. At first, it was quite annoying, but after having the phone for a week now, I know exactly where the scanner is when I pick up my phone, and works about 80% of the time. The placement isn't as bad as some reviewers make it out to be, but yes, it would have been a little bit more practical to see that dead center on the back of the phone, currently where the rear camera is. And believe it or not, my primary unlock method is the face recognition, which I found to be extremely accurate and fast. I don't feel like I need to voluntarily hold the phone up in front of my face, and the only time this fails is in pitch black conditions, where obviously the front-facing camera can't see my face. You also have the option to allow some smart lock conditions where the phone stays unlocked, for example when you're at home, work, or if it can hear your voice. The fact that it's completely dust resistant and water resistant up to 1.5 meters is a nice bonus, but I don't plan on going for a swim with it anytime soon. Now, after using iOS for over a decade, the greatest switch was indeed the one to the Android software. So far, it's been mostly positive. The clean and intuitive user interface has been a pleasure to use, and the learning curve wasn't too steep. However, it did require some tweaking so that I could use it comfortably, to the point where it felt like my personal phone and not some Google lone unit which was being watched at every moment. For example, why am I getting notifications telling me to take photos of a place I just shopped at, or review restaurants I eat at? And why is it showing me ads in Gmail? These are all very, very frustrating notifications that are the exact opposite of what I would call a positive user experience. Thankfully, I know how to disable these notifications from certain apps, but not everyone knows how to do this. Not everyone wants to be alerted about every single app that gets put to sleep, or power management, or hassled to upload content to Google Maps. Take a page out of Apple's books here and keep the notifications personal. Once personalized though, this thing is a pleasure to have around, and makes going back to the iPhone feel like something I picked up at Toys R Us. Although I did lose some of the iOS to macOS integration that is super handy while working on my MacBook Pro, delegating all of my shared files to Dropbox has been a lifesaver. Anyway guys, that pretty much wraps it up. Let me know if you've picked up the Galaxy S8 or the S8 Plus and what you think of it so far. Of course, check out the links in the description if you want to pick one of these up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.